This show is not intended for the politically correct or the closed-minded. Enter at the risk of opening your eyes. You have been warned.
Why does the media attack an issue? To get primetime ratings?
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A moment comes when we step out from the old to the new, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
To kind of catapult the propaganda.
You are listening to Open Eyes with your host, Ira Robinson. From the normal to the paranormal, from government cover-ups to the depths of our consciousness, we aim to explore all things. From the dawn of prehistory to current events, no topic is forbidden and nothing remains hidden.
No more secrets.
Open your eyes and open your mind to the fact that life as we know it is not as we have been taught. Join us at latenightinthemidlands.com or openeyesnetwork.com as we take this brief journey through the depths of the cosmos and explore what it really means to be human.
Many peoples have sacrificed their liberties, only to learn to their sorrow that deceit and mockery, poverty and tyranny are their reward.
Whether you're online or offline, intercontinental or intergalactic, hello and welcome to Open Eyes. It is Friday the 13th. Ooh. First time I've actually been broadcasting on Friday the 13th, I do believe, if I remember correctly. But anyways, welcome to the show. We are live. We are in person with you. And if you want to call in tonight, you can do so. The number is 260-494-3937. Our Skype line is JDA Film. As always, we're over in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. Come on over and join in with us. Just click the big chat and listen button up at the top of the page. You can't miss it. It's big. It's blinking. I'm blind, and even I know it's there. So come on over. Join in with the community. It's always a great bunch of people over there. And it, for some reason, always seems to devolve into food. But that's okay, because food is a great topic to talk about, too. If you guys want to join us over in YouTube land, we are over there, youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. Come on over there and watch us as we do our thing. Oh my, we have a special guest coming on with us tonight, Nancy Byrne. She's a really great person. I've enjoyed talking to her, even just the few minutes that I've had so far, and I think tonight is going to be a really great conversation. She's going to talk about her book, Choices. We're going to get into all kinds of different topics tonight, so hopefully you guys are tapped in, tuned in, and ready to learn some really cool stuff. But let's go ahead and bring her in. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be on your show tonight. And I'm really excited about it being Friday the 13th also.
It's so weird. I got to thinking there, and I don't think I've ever actually broadcast on a Friday the 13th yet. This is the first time for me. So, and I've been doing this for 3 years.
Wow.
So welcome to the show. Why don't we get started a little bit by having you tell us a little bit about yourself? I have your bio, but I always feel it's best to have the person give their own information out, because who knows you better than you, right? So why don't you get started by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, well, I guess my background is that I've always worked in, just kind of in the helping profession. I worked at a psychiatric adolescent treatment hospital and worked at a rape crisis center, women in need of group support, and I was a director of victim services for a major police department in Denver, Colorado. And it's really interesting to me that so many people feel that they just are not empowered, and that they don't have any choices, and that they really can't help themselves. And they're looking to someone else out there outside of themselves to give them the answers. I was a featured author at the Louise Hay I Can Do It conference in Denver in 2014. And I was really surprised because I was not an international bestseller. I had just written the book. It was my first book, and people would come up to me when they wanted to get the book and just touch me, like it was so important to touch me. And, oh, my God, I can't believe you wrote a book. Oh my, and it really, I was happy that they came to get the book, and I was really happy that I hoped that it would really help them in some way, but it just seemed really sad that we look to external sources to get our answers. That we always think somebody else is better, smarter, better looking, has more talent than we do. And every single one of us has been given every single thing we need to make it through this life. I had an experience. I live on Whidbey Island now, and previously I was in Colorado, but Spirit moved me here, against my wishes, I might add. But when we first got here, I was trying to move. We didn't know anyone here. I'd never even heard of Whidbey Island before we moved here. And we had an armoire that was my grandma's, and it's pretty moist here, so lots of our furniture had gotten destroyed, and I just didn't want to lose the armoire. And we didn't know anyone to help us, or we didn't know anyone who could help us move it or anything. So my husband asked me that maybe we could put it on his back, and I could lift it up, and he could carry it over. Well, I couldn't lift it. It's 300 pounds. So we brought it on the dolly over to our little guest cabin. He put it on my back, not the smartest person in the world, and I carried it up the steps on my back. So the next day I ended up in the emergency room with muscle spasms, and I was paralyzed from the waist up.
Understandably.
And so this doesn't sound like a really great experience, but I was sitting there next to this woman who was in a wheelchair, and she was talking to her son, and he was telling her, I guess she was getting ready to go into hospice, and he was explaining to her that he and his wife were going to put her house on the market to sell, that they were going to sell a lot of her belongings, but that they had picked some of her favorite things and were going to take it to her room in hospice. And she was just, my heart just went out to her. She was telling him that she had so many regrets about her life because her life had always been fear-based. She said, I never went out and walked along the ocean or stuck my toes in the water, so I was always afraid I would get sucked in or something terrible was going to happen. I seldom left the house because I was always afraid I'd get in a wreck or something terrible was going to happen. And she said, I let my whole life pass me by because I was always scared that something was going to happen, and now my life is ending, and I've never enjoyed it. She said, I would love the opportunity to have an ice cream cone and go ride on a carousel. I really, really wished I would have taken all the opportunities that have been given to me, had been offered to me, and I just never took them. And that was a huge lesson to me. Even if I had to end up in the hospital, in the emergency room, with a hurt back, it was worth it because my entire life has been fear-based. I have been afraid of everything. Scared to drive, scared to parallel park. I mean, things that people take just, for granted. I have been so fear-based all my life. I've always been afraid that the boogeyman is going to be under the bed. And I have missed out on so many experiences, and I thought, wow, I don't want to be in her shoes at the end of my life. I want to savor life. I want to enjoy everything. I came home and had an ice cream cone. I did not go stick my toes in the ocean that day, but we have so much to live for. We really do, no matter what the situation is. We have so much to live for instead of just crawling up in a ball and just literally dying. There's so many people out there that really are part of the living dead, and that is so sad to me. I read this verse one time. I just want to read it to you real quick. It was written by St. Augustine, and it says, "Men go forth to wonder at the heights of mountains, the huge waves of the sea, the broad flow of the rivers, the vast courses of the stars, and they pass themselves without ever wondering." And we are the greatest miracle of all of these things. We really, really are. And if we could just, like the title of your show, open our eyes and just realize the amazing beings that we are. We honestly can move mountains. We have, our own GPS system inside of us that gives us guidance and tells us what to do.
Sure do.
We have all the answers. Now, that's not saying you don't get guidance or you can't get guidance from somebody when you're confused or just, to get validation or something like that. But we don't need a guru outside of ourselves. We do have all of the answers. I was a battered child and extremely battered. My dad wanted to kill me. And when Spirit told me to write the book Choices, and that was the name Spirit gave me for the book, I said, who would want to read anything I have to say? And Spirit said, Nancy, your life's experiences could help many, because there are so many people that have gone through similar experiences, and they think they're the only ones. And they're hiding it in the closet. They don't want anyone to know. And they're never going to get better if they don't know that someone could go through this and, come out in a lot better shape than they went in. And I truly believe that before we're ever born, our souls pick the life's experiences that we need to help us to grow.
Absolutely agree.
And to, the life lessons we need. So I went out and sat under my cottonwood tree. I lived in Colorado at the time, and I really did I loved Colorado. With my 2 Doberman, my 5 cats, and I was raising bees at the time, and they were all around me. And in about 2.5 weeks, the book, it was just kind of dictated to me, like I was taking dictation. And in fact, I asked my husband to proof it for typos and stuff, and he said, "Oh my gosh, you write a lot better than you speak." He said, "You're so articulate." And I said, "That's because I didn't write the book."
I always say with me, whenever I write much better than I talk. I'm very flowery when I write, but I'm the opposite when I talk.
Yes, it's just, but, I'm saying how we always look to other people for answers. Spirit told me to write the book, and I, instead of just trusting and knowing that if I was supposed to write the book and I was writing the book, obviously Spirit would take care of everything. Instead of doing that, I went and talked to a friend of mine who was a PhD psychologist, and she had written an international best-selling book, and I said, "I don't know what to do. This is my first book. I don't know how to get it published. Oh, my gosh, can you give me any suggestions?" And she said, "Oh, Nancy," she said, "you know what? Writing a book is an exercise in futility, and I will never write another book. First of all, it costs about $64,000 to get a book published, and then you have to do all the work. You're doing all the marketing, all the promoting, and blah, 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 blah." And I was just, oh, my gosh, $64,000. So I put the book on the shelf, and I didn't do anything with it for about 2 years. And then one morning I got up, and Spirit said, "Nancy, if you want me to help you get the book published, you're really going to have to finish writing it first." So I went outside and finished the last chapter. And then that same day, I was complaining to my husband, "I don't know what to do." I had this book about publishers and how, that you could go through, and you had to go through all these little lines and read what they wanted and read what they took and the different genres, and I was overwhelmed. And Phil said, "Well, Nancy, why don't you ask the author of the book how he wants you to get it published?" And I thought, that's the silliest thing ever, but and I went and got in front of my computer, and I'd been on Facebook for quite a while, and I had never ever seen my publisher advertised, but I opened it up, and there it was. There's this big advertisement for Balboa Press, and so I clicked on it. It's talking about the different prices and everything, and it's not $64,000 at all. But so then I just thought I would check in with them, and that's who I ended up going through. But, when we just let go and trust Spirit, we get the answers. We have signs given to us all the time. Sometimes you turn on the radio and there's just the right song that's speaking to you. Sometimes you overhear a conversation like I did with that little lady in the hospital. Spirit really wants to give us the desires of our heart, to give us healthy, happy, prosperous, abundant lives. But sometimes we won't let it. If somebody gives you a check for $1 million, it's your responsibility to get that check cashed or deposited in your checking account. It's not just going to materialize out of the blue. We have to do our part. And it just amazes me that after all the things that have happened, sometimes I guess maybe it's just part of the human psyche or something, I still, doubt and wonder and am unsure of myself. And it's just a kind of a continual thing. So it's not like we ever just arrive. And you talk to people that are very famous and that we all think have succeeded, and they still have their fears and their doubts and their questions. And I guess when we finally let go and trust completely, we move on to a different time and space and a different life. So, we shouldn't berate ourselves because we're not perfect, because you know what? In Spirit's eyes, we all are perfect.
I can't disagree with that at all.
No, go ahead.
I can't disagree with that at all. Nancy, your story of how your book came about and the things that you went through with it, it's very similar to my own story when I wrote the book When Good Relationships Go Bad. I had gone through so many years of trauma and abuse. I went through 3 horrific marriages. One of them, my first wife tried to kill me on our honeymoon. The second one was severely physically and emotionally and mentally abusive. The third one was about as emotionally distant as you can get and finally just walked out the door one day and never returned. All of these things I went through over and over and questioning, why am I going through this? What's going on? Why is this happening? And finally, when I came to the realization of why it was happening to me, and I made changes in my life that needed to be made, needed to be done, I met the woman of my dreams, the most amazing person that I've ever had in my life, other than my children, and she has been literally a blessing to me in every way, shape, and form. And it was because of the steps that I took to re-empower myself. We do so many different things to disempower ourselves. You mentioned about your favorite place was the tree, and one of the things that I've said many times is that, if you feel like you don't have a place in the world, or that you are, sad and depressed and that there's nothing for you, and, on and on and on, all these things that we do to ourselves, go sit behind it or in front of a tree, or stand there and hold on to it, and be conscious of the fact that when you breathe out, that tree is breathing in your breath. It's taking in your breath because that's part of its survival. You're there for it. And as you breathe in your breath, you're breathing in the breath that tree has given out to you. You're sharing each other's existence in that moment. And so with that in mind, how can you feel like you're alone? You're connected to something that is powerful and amazing, because that tree is not just that tree. It's connected to everything that's around. It's connected to the whole planet almost, you see. And another idea, I guess, that always floats in my head is that if you feel that you don't have a reason to be and all of that stuff, again, that we do to ourselves, you could go outside at night and look up and see a star, and that star may no longer even exist. If it's a certain amount of distance away, it may not even exist at this point. but it gave of its life force. It gave of its life force to send its energy out. And you have taken that part of that energy in. It knew, in a cosmic kind of way, it knew that you'd be standing right there at that moment in time to take it in. And that star has now become a part of you. So how can you think that you're anything less? You see what I mean?
That's exactly true. I was at a lecture and they were talking, and I can't remember the name of the man that said we're all stardust.
It is true.
But they were saying how the surface of the earth is as thin as an apple peel. And all of the water on the earth was brought to us by a comet. And that's all the water we have. So you think about all the people that have lived on the earth. We've all drank the same water.
We have.
The air is it's the same air. The trees recycle the air. We breathe it. We let it out. So we're all connected. We look at differences in each other and we focus on the differences. Your skin is a different color. You're more educated. You're not as educated. You have different beliefs. And we focus on the differences instead of focusing on the similarities. We all want the same thing, to be loved, to be accepted. And if you cut any one of us, we bleed. None of us are superheroes. We all are similar in so many ways. And that's another thing about human nature, is that we all want to be loved, and we all want to be loved for who we really, truly are. But yet, we never let anyone else know who we really, truly are, because we're afraid if we let anyone know, they won't accept us. If they knew the real person, they wouldn't like us. And most of our relationships are just so superficial. We talk about things that don't matter. I'm sure this matters to a lot of people, but, football scores, the stock market, instead of letting people know who we really are. I had an opportunity. I have a girlfriend who had an office. She was a therapist, and she wanted me to talk to a group of her women because of my background in psychology, and also she said my spiritual bent. She thought I could help them more than she had been able to. I was so excited because, I had just written the book too, and I thought, well, this is a good way to, she said I could take my book. And so I'm getting ready to walk out the door, and Spirit says, now, when you introduce yourselves to these women, I want you to tell them who you really are. I want you to tell them that you're a compassionate, wonderful woman. You have more integrity than anyone you've ever met. And on and on and on. And then Spirit said, and I want them to tell you that you're beautiful. I want you to tell them that you're beautiful. And I was like, oh, oh my God, all my life I've been the ugly duckling, And I told my husband, I said, what Spirit told me to do? And I said, what do you think? And he looked at me and said, well, if you could pull it off, I guess it would be great, but they're going to think you're full of yourself. And I said, you're right. So on the way there, I picked up a friend who always used to go to all of my trainings, and I told her, and she goes, are you going to do it? And I said, heck no. So I got there, and I said, why don't we all introduce ourselves, and so that everyone knows who you are and your name and who you are. And then it was almost like Spirit just channeled through me, because I did not intend to do this. I said, but I'll go first so that I could give you a feel for what I want you to do. And I said, I'm Nancy Byrne, blah, 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 blah. And I told them all this stuff, and then I said, and I'm beautiful. And they looked at me, and some of them had their mouths wide open, and they looked at each other like, oh my gosh, we've got a live wire here. And normally it would have really bothered me that, they thought I was nuts, but it didn't. It was like it wasn't me. And I was just looking at them, and I said, so what did you think about my introduction of myself? And they're, yeah, it was fine. It was good. Yeah, And I said, okay. I said, I thought some of you were going to fall off your chair. when I introduced myself. And so I looked at my friend and I said, so Crystal, what did you think of my introduction? I said, you look like you were ready to fall off your chair laughing. And she said, well, I was looking at the other women, and I could tell that they thought you were full of it. She said, and, I know you, and I've been to all your trainings, and I know you're not. But she said, it was so funny to watch you do that because I know that you were apprehensive to do it. And so then I explained to them about how we all want to be loved for who we are, but we don't let anybody else know. When we introduce ourselves, how do we introduce ourselves? I'm an engineer. I'm a nuclear physicist.
Right.
I'm a secretary. I'm a mother. I'm a doctor. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a nurse. That's a title that you have. That's not who you are. And one of the things, especially in our country, is we all want to know is what each other does. The first thing we meet somebody, we want to know, what do you do for a living? We never ask anybody, what are your values? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What is the most important thing in the world to you? And so I told these women I didn't want any titles. I wanted them to go around and just introduce themselves and tell people, be vulnerable. Tell people what your dreams are and what your hopes are, and if you really wanted to go out on a limb, tell people, what your fears are. And it was just an amazing experience. The whole atmosphere in the room changed, and these women were crying, and just it seemed like it brought them so close together. And at the end, they were all, well, hey, would you like to go out to lunch with us? I'd like to get to know you better. And so you need to listen to your own inner guidance and not the voices of anybody else. Other people are just mere human beings just like we are. And I shouldn't say mere because we're miracles. We're wonderful, amazing human beings. But we don't trust. We've all been given that inner guidance. And whenever, I am learning the hard way that whenever Spirit asks me to do something or guides me to do something, I don't care what it is, I listen, because you never go wrong. You really never go wrong when you listen to Spirit.
You're right there.
It's the same way. After I wrote the book, I was seeing a massage therapist, and she said, Nancy, I have a vacation. Matt and I have a vacation home on Whidbey Island. She said, why don't you and your husband come and stay a week with us, and I'll have a book signing for you. And I was like, yay, a book signing. Somebody's going to have a book signing for me. Oh, I'll ask him. And I went home and asked Phil, and he said, oh, my God, he's heard Whidbey Island was a beautiful, beautiful place. He had never been here, but he's heard so much about it. And, he's really well-traveled, and I'm not. So he said, sure, we have the vacation time, and let's just do it. So we booked tickets, and 3 days before we were supposed to get here, she called me and said, Nancy, I'm really sorry, but I can't have a book signing for you. She said, our house, Matt is getting transferred, and we're putting our house in Parker up on the market to sell because we're going to be moving to Whidbey permanently. She said, but I love your energy. I just would love to have it in my home. So just come and get the keys. I'll give you the code to get in, and we don't have to be there. You and your husband can stay there. Well, first of all, I didn't feel like I knew her that well to stay in her home without her, and it just made me uncomfortable. And, the only reason I wanted to come or to visit the island was to have a book signing. And so I said, I don't want to go. I just don't feel comfortable staying in her house without her there, and I just wanted the book signing. And Phil said, well, our tickets are non-refundable. Men are always really practical. So he said, let's just go. We've got the time off, and enjoy it. It is a gorgeous, beautiful place. I'd been on the Internet checking it out and everything. I have been terrified of water. My dad tried to drown me as a child, and I can still remember trying to breathe air, and the water goes in your lungs. And I love water. I like to stick my toes in it, but I don't want to be under it. I don't want to be in it. I don't want to be on it, and I don't want to be above it. And so when he drove to the ferry, I almost had a full-blown panic attack. I was like, no, honey, no, I don't want to get on a boat. I'm not getting on a boat, Phil. I said, let's drive. And he said, Nancy, it's an island. There are no roads to the island. This is the only way there. And now that we live here, there is another way. There's Deception Pass, but it's a really high bridge, and it would have been equally as harrowing to me. But he said we could stay in I guess in Seattle, or he said, but we don't have reservations, and it's tourist season. And he said, you can make it. It's just a 15-minute ferry boat ride. I know you can do this. So we got on the boat, and I was terrified. I was imagining the boat was going to sink, and I would be eaten by a shark. And I mean, everything horrible would happen. You know, the boat was going to collapse. When we pulled in, the bridge was going to, was going to just collapse. Everything I could think of. And my fingernail marks are still, I'm sure, in the upholstery of that rental car. And we got off onto the island, and I noticed it was really green, and that's about it. I ruined the entire trip for myself, because all I could think about was getting back on that 15-minute ferry ride to go home. And that's all. I was just obsessed with that. I stayed in their house and really didn't go out at all. I sat there and watched the little deer underneath. They had a stream running through their house, and they had a beach that I went and visited just one time when the tide was really, really low, so I could get some seashells, and that was it. And when we got back home to Colorado, I was really upset with Spirit. And I wrote an automatic writing, and I said, "You Almighty God, you know everything. Why did you have her invite me to go to Whidbey Island when you knew she wasn't going to have a book signing for me?" And Spirit wrote back and said, "I had Michelle invite you to go to Whidbey Island because you're going to be moving there." And I said, "Oh my God, that me? I'm not moving. I'm not crazy." And I showed Phil the letter, and he laughed, and we just kind of laughed about it, and I forgot about it. And then I started having all these dreams about the island and how beautiful it was that I didn't think I'd even noticed. And it was just, it's paradise. It really is a paradise. It's a magical place. And I had this dream that I was swimming underwater, under the ocean. And I was looking at the ocean floor with all the plant life and the vegetation, and it was just so beautiful. It was like a dream world. It was like it was magic. And I was swimming with a great white shark and a little blowfish, and I could breathe underwater. And it just seemed really weird that the trio, a shark and me and a little blowfish, and we were just swimming along together. So I wrote another writing, and I said, I don't know how I could have been wrong. I'm always spot on. And I thought you said you wanted me to move to Whidbey Island. And, maybe it was just because I was traumatized about being on the ferry or something. And Spirit wrote back and said, "You weren't wrong, Nancy. Nancy, you still need to learn to let go and to trust. And you will flourish on the island, and our book will flourish. And I want you to be there by the end of the summer." Well, it was the end of June when we had gotten back, and, the end of summer is right around the corner. So I told Phil, and he said, "I'm not moving." And I couldn't believe I said this because I've always been fear-based. And I said, "Well, Phil, I'm learning to trust in God and not in man, and I'm going if that's what Spirit wants me to do." And he said, "Really? You'd go without me?" And I said, "Yep, I would." And he said, "Okay, well, I won't stand in your way." But he didn't help me do anything, no packing, no anything. And so we flew back to the island, and we looked for a house, and we couldn't find a house. And they were all, just really, really, we couldn't find a house that we liked. And so Phil got on the internet, and he found a couple of houses, and we asked our realtor, and she said, "Well, I really don't want to show you this house because," she said, she said, "the man is selling it by himself, and, we've provided a lot of work for him, and now that he's put it on the market, it's by owner. She said, but if you really, really want to see it, I will show it to you. We pulled into the driveway, and I knew that this was a house for me. It was just the trees. I mean, I had planted a lot of trees in Colorado, and they'd grown really, really large. But these trees, you have to bend clear over to look up at it. And the majesty and the strength and the power and the wisdom of these trees, I said, oh my God, this is where I belong. This is where I'm supposed to live. And I jumped out of the car, and I never even looked in the house. I went running through the forest like a little kid, looking at all the trees and all the vegetation, and I was so excited. And then it was really funny because the people weren't here. They had their neighbor showing the house. And I tried to get up in the trees where nobody could see me. And I lifted up my hands and I said, oh, thank you for bringing me home. And I started to cry. And when the lady that was showing us the house told the lady who owned the house, she said, oh, she's such a nice woman. I really hope she moves here. And she's just so sweet, and she loves animals and she loves nature. But she did a really weird thing. She stood in the middle of the forest and she raised her hands to the sky and she said, this is where I belong. I finally found my home. And she started to cry. And so Brigitte thought I was a little weird. But so Spirit gave us the house that we were supposed to move into, led us to the right house. It's just following your own inner guidance, following Spirit. And another thing that I really want to address is that, you know what? Spirit doesn't test us. Really and truly, Spirit never tests us. Spirit knows exactly what we're capable of doing and what we're not capable of doing. We don't realize all that we are capable of doing. And so when you think that an obstacle is insurmountable and you're terrified to even attempt to do it, when you're so scared that you can't imagine ever doing something, and you try it and you succeed, your confidence just soars in yourself. It soars not only in yourself but in Spirit too. Each time you do something that you're terrified to do and you do it anyway, your confidence just builds and builds and builds. And that's what Spirit is trying to teach us. He's trying to give us an opportunity for growth and personal empowerment. Spirit would never, ever give us something that we couldn't do and have us fail and lose confidence in ourselves and berate ourselves for how stupid and dumb we were for trying it in the first place. That's not what it's all about. It may not feel like an opportunity for growth and personal empowerment when you're going through it, but I promise you it is. And you come out the other end so grateful that you took that leap of faith and did it. After we found our house, we went back and put our house on the market, and we rented these big semis to bring our stuff in, and then Phil got an RV so that we could bring our dog and our cats with us so they wouldn't be traumatized. And we had to be here in 3 days, and my grandson was driving my Jeep. And so we were out. We had been on the road for 2 days, and my grandson called and said, Grandma, I am so tired. He said, do you mind driving your car and letting me get in the RV and just taking a nap for just a little bit? And I said, no, of course not, sweetheart. And so we pulled off, found a rest stop, and I got in the car, and I said, now, Phil, remember, I'm terrified of driving on the highway. I said, do not leave without me. Make sure I'm behind you. I have to put on my sunglasses. I have to put on my seatbelt. I have to adjust the mirrors. Make sure that you don't go without me. And he said, okay. And there he was. And I said, oh, my God, where'd he go? Didn't he hear me? And I thought of staying there and waiting for him to come back. I thought eventually he would notice I wasn't behind him. But I thought, nah, he won't even notice. And so I took a deep breath, and I got on the highway, and I was driving, and I was, oh my gosh, cars were passing me like I was standing still, and I was going 75 miles an hour trying to catch up with Phil. And then several hours passed, and I'm still driving, and I couldn't call them because I didn't have cell phone coverage. And I was trying to plug in the address while I was driving, and Garmin didn't work. It kept taking me back to Colorado. And it started to get dark. And I have trouble seeing at night. All the lights blind me. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this was all a setup, Spirit's leading me here so that I can crash. And just this is how it's going to end. I'm always such a scaredy cat. And then it started raining. It wasn't raining, it was a torrential downpour. The windshield wipers on my car were going so fast that I still couldn't see out of them, very clearly, because the rain was coming down so hard. And then it was really, really dark, and we were going around curves, and I couldn't really tell where I was, but I could just imagine myself falling off the top of a mountain and plunging to my death. And then I came to road construction, and they had these poles, but they had the blinking red lights, which further added to blind me. And I said, why are you doing this to me? I'm already moving to your island. And nothing. I didn't hear anything from Spirit, and I didn't even feel Spirit's presence. And that really terrified me. And then Phil pulled up next to me, and he said, what are you doing? He said, you were driving like a bat out of hell. You passed us like we were standing still back there. And I said, I have to go to the bathroom, and I'm out of gas. So Phil led me to the nearest station. They had pulled over on the side of the highway, and because I was so scared, I didn't even notice. I was just so intent on catching up with them that I passed them, and he'd spent most of the time trying to catch up with me because I was driving so fast trying to catch up with them. So that night, Phil and Braxton spent the night in the hotel room because I was upset with Phil for leaving without me. I was even upset with poor Braxton for getting tired and having to take a nap. I was really upset with myself for being such a scaredy cat, and I was furious with Spirit. So I spent the night in the RV, just with my dog and my cats, the only people that I felt loved me and wouldn't let me down. And the next morning when I woke up, Spirit said, Nancy, look what you just did. You drove through Seattle under the most adverse conditions possible, and you made it. Think what you could do on a bright, sunshiny day. You've got this. You can drive on the highway. And so I was like, oh my God, I did it. And since then, I have actually driven to Seattle 3 times by myself. So, it certainly wasn't fun. I can assure you it wasn't fun when I was going through that. But I am not so scared to drive anymore.
There you go. And exactly.
It's all worth it. You can't live. There are limited resources on the island, and if I was always scared to go anywhere, I would be kind of trapped.
Exactly. Well, listen, Nancy, we do need to hit a break here real quick. When we come back, I've got a couple of questions that I want to ask you in relation to this stuff, some of the experiences that you've been through. I want to say, though, before we hit the break, this has really been amazing so far. I can't tell you how much you seem to be channeling me in the life that I've lived, because it's like you keep bringing up stuff it's things that I've been through and things that I've gone through and tried to help other people out with as well, So you're putting it beautifully and very succinctly, and I love it. And I'm so grateful for you to come on tonight. This has so far been an incredible conversation. Stick around with us, though. We will be back in just a few minutes. If you guys want to call in tonight, you can do so. The number is 260-494-3937. The Skype line is JDA Film. And as always, we're over in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. Make sure you guys come on over there and join in with us. It's always a very interesting time over there. And we'll be back in just a few minutes, folks. Stick around.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
Open Eyes seeks out the heart of matters, looking for explanations in places that most other radio hosts refuse to go. No subject is forbidden, and nothing remains hidden. Listen to Open Eyes on the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Open minds, open hearts, open eyes. Ben Franklin said, "If you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today." Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com, because things really do need to change.
You can listen to the LNM Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from lnmradionetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
Tragic devastation drove them underground. Abject desperation brought them back out again. Their world had changed. Alien creatures greeted them with misery in tow and enslavement in mind. Into this world a girl was born. Made mute by a mistake of birth, Aylin's inability to communicate with others of her kind was absolute. But natural things, animals, trees, the softly creeping things in the night, were open to her and had many things to teach her, including how to save her world from those beings that held her people in thrall. Aylin's first Silent Steps are just the beginning. Silent Steps is the first book in the Tikik Cycle trilogy. Aylin is a young girl caught in a world that she is unable to communicate with, trapped between her people and the monstrous creatures that enslave them. With each step she takes, she comes ever closer to her destiny. Aylin has been thrust into the center of a power play for the control of her people, swept into a tide of events that will change the face of her planet forever. Purchase Silent Steps now at any major retailer worldwide, or online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Neely Worldwide Publishing. You can also order a signed copy at Ira Robinson's website, originalworlds.com.
On the lies that they tell you, gotta break away from the numbing pain, succumb to the rage that's inside you. You're hypnotized, demoralized, believe every lie that they sell you. Start channeling whatever will remain, discern from what's fiction and what is true.
Open your eyes indeed. Hello, welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Tonight we're here with our special guest, Nancy Byrne, author of Choices, and a really great guest. I'm loving the conversation so far, and hopefully you are as well. The number tonight to call in is 260-494-3937. Our Skype line is JDA Film, and as always, we're in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. Come on over and join in with us. And if you guys want to go to my archives of all of my shows, you guys can find those on my website, openeyesnetwork.com. And if you're interested in any of my own books, you guys can find them at my website, originalworlds.com. Boy, that's a lot of links to get out in a couple of little breaths, but it's got to do the little promo thing. But anyways, Nancy, we are back. Thanks for sticking around through the break with us there.
You're welcome. I'm just so glad to be here.
It's so great to hear your words and putting them in such a beautiful way. It's really great to see people like you bringing this kind of information out to people, giving people hope and a deeper understanding of what they can do to change their own lives, to transform their lives into something better. Because, really, I guess the best way that I can think of things is that, we're not guaranteed to take another breath. And the problem with fear is that it really disempowers you to make use of the moment that you're being given right now. We have these decisions that we have to make every moment of every day. And we always choose between, being afraid, being hateful, being angry, which is kind of all the same thing, really, or living in love and living in joy and living in peace, which again is kind of the same thing together as well. And so, we're not guaranteed to take another breath, though. It's always a question that I ask people is, what are you doing in this moment in time? I understand the traumas that you've been through, and yes, they do have a deep impact on the things that you do every day. But at the same time, you don't have to live with that on you every moment in time either. You can choose to look at things a different way. Am I way off base thinking that, or what do you think of that, Nancy?
Oh, I agree with you 100% completely. You're absolutely right. If you had some sort of trauma in the past, what good does it do? You're just giving the other person power over you when you're just focusing on that every day of your life. It's like reliving the past again and again and again and replaying a bad movie. Why would you do that?
I always put it this way. The abuses that I've been through in the past, if the person knew how much their actions influenced my life and the decisions that I make, they would take a sick pride in it. They would be overjoyed and ecstatic that they still had that deep impact on me. And I'm not going to give them the satisfaction.
That's true. What did they say? The best revenge is to live a happy life.
Exactly. You got it exactly.
Not that we're trying to get revenge, but I think that one of the things too is we never really realize what other people have gone through or are going through, because lots of people, when they're upset or fearful or don't have enough confidence in themselves, they lash out at other people.
They sure do.
And I feel that maybe like with my dad, I think he had a lot of disappointment. His life was unfulfilled. It didn't go the way he had thought it was going to go. And he really did have a lot of potential, and he had a really great personality for the most part. But it just something just went wrong. And I have a girlfriend, and she says that when she was growing up, her dad always told her, Elizabeth, there is good in everyone, and it's your job to find that good. And sometimes we get so caught up in our own pain and our own discomfort and our own fears, and that we don't really, when we're focusing on all these negative things in our lives, we're not thinking about somebody else. It's just I had to go in for surgery about 8 weeks ago, and it was major surgery, and I guess I was in a lot of pain, although, you're out of it, so you really don't know. But, and my blood pressure soared, and so it ended up being a lot longer. But when I came out of surgery, all you want to do is sleep. You're so exhausted. And at that point, I could feel the pain. And the nurse came up to me, and she wanted me to take these pills, and they were like horse pills. And I said, I'm not taking those. I'll choke. And she's going, well, the doctor really wants you to take them. And I said, no, I need some water or something. My throat is dry. And then she wanted me to take sleeping pills. Well, that's all I wanted to do was sleep anyway. I didn't need sleeping pills. And then she wanted me to take pain pills. And I said, no, I'm not taking pain pills. The doctor promised me I did not have to be on any pain pills because they're bad for you, and I won't heal as quickly unless I asked for them. I'm not going to be on any pain pills. And she said, your blood pressure really soared, and the doctor ordered you to be on oxycodone, and she's put you on high blood pressure medicine. And I'm like, what? Well, it wasn't the nurse's fault. And I was really being grumpy. And when I am, that's kind of an understatement. Grumpy is saying it's a nice word. Anyway, so when I fell asleep, Spirit said, you were really grumpy with that nurse, and she was just trying to help you, and she was explaining everything to you. And that nurse has medical problems of her own. She has cancer, and she may not walk out of this hospital. You're going to leave tomorrow, and everything's going to be just fine. And I thought, oh, my God. And so when she came in, I missed her one time, but when she came in the time after that, I looked over and I said, good morning, Kim. And she goes, oh, Nancy, you're smiling. I'm so glad to see that you're not in pain anymore. She said, oh, my gosh, that's great. And she was standing there putting more pain medication in my drip system, in my IV. And I said, I'm really sorry I was grumpy with you last night. She goes, you weren't grumpy at all. She said, all you wanted to do was sleep, and I kept waking you up to give you pain pills to make you, or sleeping pills to make you sleep. She said, oh, my God, some people have thrown things at me. And I said, oh, my gosh, are you kidding? She goes, no. She said, they have. And so I said, it must be really hard when you work in a hospital like this, and you've got medical problems of your own, huh? And she said, yes. And I said, well, Spirit told me that I was really grumpy with you and that you had cancer. And she just froze. And then she said, yes. She said, I have two types of stage 4 cancer, lung and cervical. And she said, and I'm so worried about my kids. She said, I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And, they've never experienced what it's like to be a child. They've never been on a farm, or they've never had pets, or they've never, gone for hikes along the river. She said all they do is get on their iPad and their iPhones. And she said, that's not a childhood. I just want to be around to let them, to have a childhood. And so we never know. She had cancer, and she's thinking about me and trying to help me and take care of me and make sure I'm comfortable. And sometimes we're so caught up in ourselves that we don't see the bigger picture of what other people are going through. And I think it's really important that in everything we do, not to give ourselves away or to discount ourselves, because we're in our bodies, because that's where we're supposed to be, and we're supposed to thine own self be true. But, we're not the only ones living on this world, and there are a lot of other people that are going through so many worse experiences than we have ever been through. It's hard to imagine some of the horrible things we go through, that there could be anyone else who's gone through more. But it's true, the
really
verse
is.
about, you complained because you didn't have any shoes, and then you met somebody that didn't have a leg.
Yep, exactly. I've always said, what other people think about you is not your business. It's how you react to how they think about you that is. That's the best way that I can put it. If somebody thinks that I'm a jerk, that's okay. They're okay to think that. It's not my business. But then if I call them a jerk in response, that's on me, not them, you see. It's just how it is. And that being said, one of the things that you brought up was the idea that other people are going through hardships. A lot of the things that people go through, we were talking before the beginning of the show about how everything happens for a reason. And I'm a big proponent of everything happens for a reason. We may not always know it or know the reason why at that moment in time, but it does. And the thing that I think is important for people to understand, at least from my point of view, is that it may not always be a lesson for you that you're going through the stuff that you're going through. It may be the other person needs you, as their target for their own lesson. Does that make sense, Nancy? So in other words, it's you're there, you're learning your lessons. Yes, there are things that are there for you to learn, but it's for them to learn from as well. It's all there's a fractal experience that's happening. It's not just you, it's them as well.
Yes, and another thing is that, each one of us, no matter what experiences we're going through, is a whole living being. We're whole, we're complete, and we're perfect the way we are at that time. We're just at different levels sometimes. But it's not, I think because of some of the experiences I've had, I just can't stand to see people suffering and in pain. And so I've always been this little helper, and it's sometimes people don't need your help. Sometimes instead of empowering them and helping them, you're really enabling them. And I wrote about this in the book. Sometimes people feel that, that you think you're better than them or that you're more powerful than them. And who are you to try to tell somebody else how to live their life or to help them? It just makes them feel like they're worthless and they can't take care of it themselves. We have to be very careful, especially when you're compassionate and care about people, to just try to go in and rescue people, because you can't. When I worked at this adolescent psychiatric treatment hospital for many years, there was a young girl that had come in and she'd been raped. Well, when you've been violated by the human touch, you don't want anyone to touch you. You just don't want that. It's not welcome. And a seasoned psychiatrist who should have really known better just felt so, just wanted to comfort her and put his arm around her, and she totally freaked out.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to be really careful, because lots of times when you think you're doing to help somebody else, you're doing it to make yourself feel comfortable, because no one likes to be, no one feels comfortable when somebody is suffering or in pain. I mean, normal people don't like to watch other people suffer and be in pain. And sometimes we try to offer suggestions or advice, and the best thing we can do is just listen. And we can't ever tell anybody that we know exactly what we're going through, because even if we went through practically the exact same thing, everyone experiences it differently.
Yes,
so that diminishes
exactly.
it to say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through, and I did this, and you know what, it doesn't matter what you did. It's what are they going to do?
Exactly.
What choices are they going to make for their lives? So, and also, sometimes, too, we try to give too much of ourselves to other people. And we have to take care of ourselves first. We really do. And it to me, it sounded so cruel when I was in, taking psych classes and stuff. I thought, my God, that's really, that's really mean. That's cruel. Of course, if I saw somebody in front of a truck, I would push them out of the way or something. But what makes their life more valuable than mine? And when you're scuba diving, they tell you that if you're trying to save someone and someone is panicking, they're going to pull you down and you're going to drown with them.
Exactly.
And you have to let them go.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, my God, I couldn't do that. But, my life is just as valuable. And Spirit gave me my life and gave me a purpose and wants me to fulfill that purpose. If I'm giving my life away to others, I'm not going to be fulfilling my purpose. And I've let not only myself down, but I've let Spirit down and people that love me down. And so, our intentions are really honorable, but sometimes we get caught up in values and ideas that don't serve us, and we do them because we think it's what's expected of us or because we want to do the right thing, and you need to do the right thing for you and not discount yourself. You are a living, breathing human being, and you have the right to be here, the same right that anybody else has, and you have a responsibility to take care of yourself and not put yourself in harm's way. Or I've had a knife pulled on me, I've had a gun held at my head, and now I look back at it and think, oh, that was pretty stupid, to put myself in that situation, And but we all have good intentions, and it's just that sometimes they're not thought out. It's just we each are just such wonderful human beings, and we have so much to offer the world, and just Spirit gave us life for a reason. If you really think about, I know there are a lot of people in the world that the odds of you being here at this moment of time are like 1 in I don't know how many trillion or gazillion, or it's just a number too big for me to even imagine. I mean, if you consider all the predators that our ancestors were faced with, the plagues and the disease and the wild animals that sought to devour us, and everything that we've gone through, all the wars, all the famines, everything that we've gone through, it's just the odds of you being here with the family you were born into in this moment of time are so minute. So everybody, if you're here for a reason. And, it's important that you fulfill your purpose, no matter what that purpose is. If your purpose is to give joy to a child that needs you to hold their hand and wipe a tear from their eyes, it's not always some big, huge, magnificent purpose. You don't have to, Spirit told me, you don't have to save the world. You don't have to move mountains. Your purpose is to live the best life you can possibly live.
And for empowerment purposes as well, Nancy, you got to think too, all those people that came before you, all those ancestors that lived and breathed and bled and died for all the things that they went through. You have survivor's blood in your veins. That's what's flowing through you. All those people that came before you, they're flowing through you right now. And that's the amazing, powerful person you are. That's the stock that you come from,
That's true. And there was something, I read it on Facebook, but it's really true, So far, you have survived every obstacle that has been put in front of you. So your survival rate is 100%.
You got it.
I mean, who can say that? It's amazing.
Exactly. Listen, let's go ahead and hit our second break while we're here. And when we come back, we'll get more into your book and where people can find it and all that kind of good stuff. How's that sound to you?
It sounds great.
All righty. Well, you guys are listening to Open Eyes. My guest tonight is Nancy Byrne. My name is Ira Robinson, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the show so far as much as I am. This has just been a really great one. And if you guys want to call in, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Skype line is JDA Film. And as always, we're in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. Come on over there and get involved. We'll see you on the other side.
The L&M Radio Network offers a chat room for you, the listener, to connect with others whom are interested in the topics and guests that the L&M Radio Network brings to you. During the live shows, the hosts will even visit the chat room and chat with you, the listener. Click on the big red Chat and Listen button at the top of the website and join us. No subscription is needed at either lnmradionetwork.com or latenightinthemidlands.com.
The L&M Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information and subscribe today. Information on becoming an L&M subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you.
Open Eyes Network now airs a live simulcast on YouTube. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network, features not just our live content, but other videos as well, and is always active. So now you can tune in many different ways. Open Eyes Network shows air Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live. Be sure to visit OpenEyesNetwork.com to find easy-to-use links to get to all of the places that you want to listen to our shows. And don't forget, all of our shows will now be archived as well on YouTube. Have you ever heard of Audible? Audible is a website with hundreds of thousands of audiobooks. They're all high quality, easy to listen to, and, best of all, if you take advantage of a special deal that we've worked out for you, you can get one for free. That's right, a free audiobook of your choice in any genre, simply by going to audibletrial.com/openeyes and signing up for the free trial. It's simple to do, and it would support the shows that we bring to you, and hey, you get a free book out of the whole thing. So why not take advantage of it today? Go to audibletrial.com/openeyes and sign up for the trial. To hide the truth once you know it makes you think that you are better than everyone else. It makes you into the type of person who says, "Ooh, I have a secret," but you're not ready to hear it yet. However, for $39.95, I'll let you in on the secret. You'll lead the people to the promised land for the cheap price of 3 easy payments of 1/3 of their soul apiece. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Tonight we're here with Nancy Byrne, my special guest, and hopefully y'all are enjoying it so far. Really great show, and if you guys want to check out all of my other archives and all that kind of good stuff, head on over to openeyesnetwork.com. I've got all my good stuff over there. Don't forget we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/C/OpenEyesNetwork. But we are back with our guest, Nancy. Hello, Nancy. We have returned.
Hi.
So before we hit the break there, we were getting into choices and all kinds of great stuff. I mean, all the stuff that's in your book. Why don't you give out the information about where people can find it, and then we can go further from there.
Okay. You can purchase it at Barnes & Noble, online at Barnes & Noble, at Balboa Press, or at Amazon.com. Or you can purchase it directly from me if you want. So, it really is an amazing little book. It's a quick read. It took me about 2.5 hours to proof it. For my last proofing, it's an airplane book. And since it was written by Spirit, each chapter has some really valuable information, and it was written in a real upbeat, positive manner. It's people have told me that I have a tremendous sense of humor, but as I said, I didn't really write the book. It was Spirit who wrote the book, and I don't want to plagiarize Spirit in any way. I think if I would have written the book, it would have been really a doom and gloom book and a poor, pitiful Pearl book. But as it turned out, I've read this book over. In fact, one time Spirit was trying to not chastise me, but tell me something about something, and I said, I wrote the book, and Spirit said, apparently you haven't read it yet. So, but I know we're getting ready to close, but I wanted to tell you there's a story I wrote in the book about a skiing incident that I had, and then I just want to tie it in with something that happened in real life. I was married once before, and we were out, we were elders in this Pentecostal speaking in tongues, dancing in Spirit church. And so we'd gone up skiing with another set of elders from this church, and we'd been skiing all day, and I was really a good skier. Could ski on black diamonds, and we weren't even, on this day, we weren't even on a black diamond. We were on a blue. And so it was a cloudy day, and it was really, the ski conditions were not good. Visibility was not good, and it was getting towards the end of the day. And my friend said, hey, let's let the guys go up on one more run, and why don't we go to the lodge and have a cup of hot cocoa and sit by the fire? And I said, oh, my God, that sounds good. So when I mentioned it to my husband, he said, no, we spend a fortune for these ski tickets. He said, we've got to get more bang for our buck. He said, we're going to go up one more time, and then we'll all go sit at the lodge together. And so I really felt like I wasn't supposed to go up on that run, but I didn't want to get into an argument in front of, another set of elders, because, I didn't think elders were humans, or I guess that they shouldn't argue. They should never have arguments. And so I went up to avoid an argument, and I fell. I hit a piece of black ice, and I fell. And I really hurt myself, and but I didn't want to. My husband wanted to get the ski patrol, and I didn't want to go down in one of those body bags. They cover you up and zip the zipper up, and there you are going down, and you don't know where you're going, and all you can feel is that you're swirling around and around. So the next year, almost to the exact day, with the same set of elders from the same, Pentecostal church that we belonged to, we went up. And it was the same thing. We were on the same mountain even. And Linda said, let's go have some chocolate, have a drink. And so I told my husband what we were going to do, and he gave me the same response as before. No, we spend a lot of money for these tickets, and we're not going to. And I said, I am not going up on another run. I said, this happened to me last year, and I was in a cast for 6 months. And he said, oh, that's stupid. You're not going to do that again. What are the odds of that happening 2 years in a row? You're just being a baby. let's go on up. And my spirit guides were screaming at me to get off of that mountain, and I did not want to go up, and I was freezing, and I went up. And the same thing happened. I was a very good skier, but when I saw the black ice, I locked my knees because I remembered what had happened the last time, and I did the most amazing, I executed the most amazing full flip in the air. You would have thought I was training for the the Olympics if you would have seen me, except I came down on my face. The landing wasn't too good. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I can't stand this pain. And I think I actually blacked out for a while, because when I came to, I was heading right towards this little boy that had fallen down and was crying. He was crying and crying, and I was going right towards him, and I was trying, if I hit him, I would have knocked him off the mountain, and I'm trying to dig my fingernails in the snow and my heels into the snow so I don't knock him over. And I stopped like within probably 1.5 feet from him. And I sat up and I said, oh, I think I just broke my whole face. And the little boy looked at me, and he quit crying, and he got up and he went down the hill screaming for his parents. And when we went to the first aid place, I could see why my face was totally swollen. My eye looked like it was hanging out of the socket. It wasn't. But you know when you get rug burns, how you get these big blisters on your face?
Yeah.
And I looked like a monster. And, why did I listen to another person instead of listening, to my own guidance, spirit? I mean, we do that. And that year, I was taken down in a body bag. I couldn't walk. Every time I stood up, my knee went out of the socket. And so they had to take me down in one of those. It's not a body bag, but that's what I call them. But to put this in perspective to really, other just relationships, other experiences, sometimes people literally are taken down in a body bag or taken out in a real body bag because they don't listen to their own inner guidance, and they don't want to hurt somebody else, or they don't want to cause problems for somebody else, or they put somebody else before themselves. When I worked for this police department, a lady came into my office, and she was a tiny little lady. She was probably only 4 foot, 8 or 9. She was very petite. And she came in and she sat down, and she said, I came to you because the community says that you really care about other people, and you really go out of your way to help them, and I'm trusting that you will be able to help me. And she said, I think my husband broke my neck. I was just, oh my God, I'll get an ambulance. Oh my God. She goes, no, you can't get an ambulance. She said, you can't tell anybody. And I said, what do you mean? We have to file a police report. She goes, no, you can't. She said, he will kill me. He's told me that he will kill the kids. She had 2 daughters. He will kill our daughters in front of me, and then he'll kill me. She said, I can't do that. I can't put my daughters at risk. She said, I just want a ride to the hospital. And her husband was this huge, he was over 6 foot tall, and he had sent about 5 or 7, I can't remember, of our officers who have guns and mace and clubs to the hospital. He was that strong. And then he was beating on this little tiny woman. So I took her in the car, and I was trying to convince her that she needed to get out of that situation. It was bad for her and the kids. And I said, can't you leave him? We can find a place for you to stay. I can get you out of the state. We can get a restraining order. And she was like, no, it would bring dishonor to my family if I did that. And I said, well, then why don't you go back and live with your family and get away from him? She goes, it would bring dishonor to my family if I did that. So I took her to the hospital, and they put a brace around her neck and put her on the gurney or whatever, and we're rolling her into the hospital. And she took my hand, and she said, you've been so kind to me. She said, thank you. She said, you've been closer to me than my sister. And just then I saw a vision of her with her face down on the cement and blood all around her. One leg was on the stair and the other one was down. And I knew that she was going to get killed. And I turned around and looked away from her, and I think she knew because she let go of my hand. And she thanked me for everything I'd done for her. And it was about 3 or 4 weeks later, we got a call, a DOA, and it was her. He had killed her. And so she ended up not only giving up her life, her own life, he was going to go to prison, and her kids that she was trying to save and protect were going to end up probably going to foster care. And she would never be able to see them grow or to take care of them or to provide a mother's nurturing or, guidance for these kids because she didn't want to dishonor somebody else. And in doing so, she dishonored herself and she lost her life. So it is so important. I don't believe that we're here to just meet our own selfish needs. We're here to help each other and lend a helping hand. You are not here to give up your life or your values or your hopes or your dreams for anybody else. I always, when I sign books, I always write to thine own self, always be true. And I think that if I could only leave you with one thing, it would be that, to thine own self, always be true. Like they say when you're flying in a plane, if something happens, put the air mask on yourself first before you help anyone else, because you won't be able to help anyone else if you don't. And if you're dead, or if you're in the hospital, or if you're incapacitated in any way, if you're broken in any way, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, you can't help anybody else. And you can't love anybody else until you love yourself. You are wonderful. You can do anything that you set your mind to do. Honestly, you can. Remember that, and don't compromise yourself for anything, for anybody. Keep hold of your dreams and your values. And it's if Spirit gave you a dream or a desire in your heart, you've also been given everything you need, everything to fulfill that desire and that dream.
Yep.
You don't just get dreams and desires just so you can just, wish and hope that you could have them and they're withheld from you. You get to fulfill your dreams and your desires. And, another thing is, how you've read in I don't know, newspapers or stuff about a parent or somebody who they've been in a car accident and their child or somebody they love is trapped under the wheel of that car. It is absolutely impossible for us to lift up a car. But yet there are numerous instances of that person lifting up the car with just one hand. Will they push their child or pull their child or the person they love out from under those wheels? And yes, they're a little bit sore the next morning, but they didn't break any bones or anything.
Yep.
You are a miracle, and you can perform miracles. You just have to believe.
Well, to go with what you were saying, Nancy, one thing I would add to it is something that I've said for a very long time. Every time that I talk about this kind of subject, I always bring it up because it's, I had to do this myself with my own family. Just because you're saddled with somebody genetically doesn't mean that you have to have anything to do with them. If they are a negative influence in your life, or if they are a danger to your life, walk away. Get away from them as quickly as you can. You don't have to subject yourself to that type of a situation.
No, and why should you? If you're a kind, sweet, wonderful person, and you don't have to be kind, sweet, wonderful. It's just your life is just as valuable as theirs is. Yep. And we bring people into our lives for a reason, but we all make mistakes. We're not perfect, but you learn valuable lessons from mistakes. The only time you don't learn from mistakes is when you keep repeating them and repeating them. And sometimes we do have to repeat them, to learn. But after, like you were talking about earlier, you have to change yourself before. You can't really change another human being.
Yep.
Only one you have to work with is yourself. And when you get healthier and you get stronger and you get more confidence, then you start drawing different people into your lives. I guess I always felt like, because I wanted to make the world a better place to live in, and I couldn't stand to see people in pain, I always drew really, really needy people into my life, or else people that wanted to control me and tell me what to do and just possess me practically. And I couldn't understand why that was. And I thought, well, maybe it's because, that's what I'm supposed to do, is help these people and just do something to change their lives. But I couldn't do it. And I finally realized that I was drawing these people to me because on some level I needed to feel that I could make a difference in other people's lives. That made me feel important because I hadn't been able to make a difference in my life. And so I really, I received so much, just a feeling of making a difference and being important. But you know what? It's not worth it to be important or to feel like you've made a difference if you're not making a difference in your own life. Taking care of your own needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, with all this in mind, there was actually a question that came in from the chat room for you a little while ago, and I think this would be a great time to ask it. Number one, it's from one of our users, Lalvart, and they were wondering if you could feel any energy of them, and if you could, what they might be able to do to change the energy to make it a better energy. So I don't know how you want to take that, but what would you advise to somebody that's asking that kind of a question?
First of all, I feel kind of erratic energy, just like I don't know if it's caused by a lot of stress, but it's almost like confusion. They don't know which way they're going, or what. There's just so much going on. It just feels like they're being pulled in so many different directions. But what works for me doesn't work for everybody else, because everyone's different. But if you could just find a place where you can be, even if it's just going within, if it's being out in nature, if it's sitting in your car where you can be alone, away from all the different chatter, and just visualize where you want to be, what you want to do. You need to know who you are, what you want, and know that you can get it. And just visualize where do you want to be? If you could have anything that you wanted in this whole world, what would it be? First of all, you need to know what you want. You can't go into a restaurant and not know what you want, or they won't know what to serve you. You have to know what you want first. And some of us don't even know what we really want. We think we want love, but we're not sure how that plays out. You just can't have just any kind of love. You can't. Some people say they love you and they abuse you.
Yes, exactly. And some people think of love as being one thing, but true love, real love is really, there's an unconditionality to it. It's taking people as they stand at that moment in time without any kind of ifs, ands, or buts with it. It's all a singular kind of a thing. So a lot of people, I think, don't even really understand what love really is. What do you think of that?
I think we all go into relationships thinking that the other person is going to be able to bring us happiness and make us whole, and no one else can ever bring us complete, total happiness or make us whole. Only we can make ourselves whole and bring us happiness. And I think that when you do go into a relationship, you go into it, it's not just your wants or desires, it's not the other person's wants or desires. You go into it to build a relationship and what's best for both of you. But we don't seem to be able to do that. It's just all about, oh, he's my knight. Well, for women, it's my knight in shining armor. He's going to protect me. He's going to take care of me. He's going to make me happy. Or, since I'm not a man, I'm not exactly sure what men look for, but in counseling people, I think it's pretty similar. Or we think, oh my gosh, if I just had the ideal job, or if I just had more money, or if I just had financial security, or if I could just, get this interview. It never gets better until you make it better. You are the creator of your own destiny.
Absolutely.
You are the architect of your own life. Nobody's going to take you by the hand and lead you step by step. No one's going to do it. Only you can do that for yourself. And you have to realize that. It sounds scary sometimes, but you're the only one that can do that. And you can. You can. You are able to do that. That's why you were born, you started out as a small child and you incrementally grew. First of all, you thought you were totally connected and a part of your parents, and then you knew that you were separate, and then you knew that your toys were yours. They were your toys. You had things that were yours. You didn't have to give them away, and we learn to just kind of that we individuate. We learn that we're individuals and that we have our own desires and our own needs apart from other people. We're all connected, but we're all individual and unique people, and we have got to honor that, and we've got to honor the differences. Just because I may not be a movie star or be a millionaire doesn't mean I'm any less than anybody else. I have got skills and I've got talents and I've got strengths that maybe somebody else doesn't have. Just because somebody didn't go to college doesn't mean that they are any less. Sometimes, skills and trades are a lot more important than a college education, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
And so, we all have been given certain strengths and gifts, and we just have to learn how to tap into them and use them. Because we've all been given. We weren't created without anything. We're just not thrown into this world and to sink or swim. Honestly, we have the ability to do whatever we want to do. When we lived in Colorado, this was a real eye-opener to me, but we all have gifts, and then we stick them in a drawer, and we forget about them. We pretend like, we're just I do this, poor pitiful pearl, oh my gosh, somebody else had a vision or somebody else felt a presence. How come that never happens to me? Well, I was feeling this way about 3 or 4 weeks ago because I read this book about this lady that felt a presence, and she could actually hear the trees talking to each other, and I was like, how come I haven't been given this sign like that? When we were in Colorado, we lived catty corner, a family lived catty corner to us with 2 little girls, 2 and 4. And in Colorado, we used to get tornadoes and really high winds. And so the dad had spent his whole weekend, putting up a trampoline for his little girls. And he set the poles in cement to make sure they wouldn't blow away. And you could hear them laughing and hollering. And it was just, their dad was so happy to be doing this for them. And they thought their dad was a big hero. And they were so excited that he would get them a trampoline. Then about 2 weeks later, I guess, we had this huge lightning and thunderstorm, and the winds were just howling. And I heard this huge crash, and I thought, oh, my God, is the roof caving in? And I ran down through the basement, and I looked outside, and their trampoline had smashed into the back of our house. Just in tiny little pieces. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so horrible. He spent the whole weekend putting it up, and those poor little girls. And I went back upstairs, and I looked out the kitchen window, and there are those little girls picking up these metal poles for their trampoline in a lightning storm. I was like, oh my God. And so I called their mother. I called their home, and there was no answer. And the one little girl, the 2-year-old, was just out in her underpants, no shoes, no T-shirt, nothing. And the older one had a little tank top on, but she didn't have shoes on either. And so I went over, and I said, "What are you doing outside of this storm? Get in this house now." Well, I wasn't their mother, and they're just looking at me like, "Who are you, lady?" I said, "Where's your mom?" And the 4-year-old said, "Oh, she's at Connie's visiting. She'll be back in a minute." And I said, "You could be hurt out here in a lightning storm picking up these poles. Please get in the house now." And the little one's putting her hand on her hips. She's like, "No, we help our dad. Our daddy going to be sad because our trampoline broke. We help our daddy." And I was like, "Just get in the house. I will pick up the pieces for your trampoline, okay? And don't come out again until the storm is over." And I think the older one wanted to go back in. She grabbed the younger one's hand, and they went in the house. And I'm picking up these pieces, these metal poles for the trampoline, thinking this is how my life is going to end. People are going to think she didn't have much common sense anyway. And so I really did. I picked up all the big pieces of the trampoline, but I didn't pick up like little tiny parts and stuff. And I was drenched, and I was freezing, and I wanted to get home. And so I went home, and I changed my clothes, and it started to hail, and within a matter of just minutes, we had like baseball-sized hailstones, like 1.5 feet on our back deck. And I look out, and there are those little girls again. And without even thinking, I just screamed, "I command you to stop this storm now!" And it stopped. And I was like, do. And I thought, it's just a coincidence.
Nope.
It'll start up again any minute. And it didn't. And then I'm like, I respectfully thank you for stopping the storm.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, who am I to command the hand of God? And Spirit said, Nancy, you are the hand of God. And we all are the hand of God.
Yep.
We have been given everything. And you know what? Spirit, God, the divine, whatever you want to call this magnificent force that, that cares and looks after us, it needs us. Spirit needs us just as much as we need Him, because it's a spirit. We can't see it. Spirit can't physically wipe the tear from a child's face. Spirit, what Spirit told me, that if it built a shelter for the homeless or something, and it just overnight or in the blink of an eye, everybody would think it was from the devil or something, and they'd tear it down.
Yep.
If a human being builds it, physically builds it, they are okay with it. We can talk to each other. We understand the same language. Some people don't even hear other people talking, much less are they going to hear Spirit talking to them. Spirit needs us, and that's part of our purpose. We were put here to help each other out, because sometimes Spirit's hands are really tied. I mean, not that Spirit has hands, but I mean, just, people don't listen to the voice of God or the voice of Spirit. We're just too busy. Our minds are always going in different directions. What can I do? How can I do this? We're like rats in a maze sometimes. But we all can perform miracles. And not only for other people, we can perform miracles for ourselves too.
Indeed.
And we need to understand this. We are mighty, all-powerful beings. And you can do anything that you set your mind to doing.
You're absolutely right. Nancy, we do have a call that's come in. I want to make sure to bring them in here in just a moment. But one thing I'll add to what you're saying there, Aesop said, and paraphrasing here, but Aesop said a long time ago, someone who is not happy with what they currently have is probably not going to be happy if they had everything that they want either. So, going back to what you were saying there before, very smart words from a pretty smart guy. So anyways, 360 area code. Welcome to Open Eyes. Who's this, and what's on your mind for our guest? Hello, 360 area code. Are you still there with us?
Hello?
Hello. Yeah, that's you.
No, my area code is 414.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You got to understand, I'm blind. I can't see very well here. So, okay, 414, you're up. Go for it.
I'm sorry, Ira. I am. This is Jessica, the one
Jessica.
that always from Wisconsin.
Yep.
want to thank you for Nancy. Nancy, thank you. And I have a question for you. Actually,
Okay.
a couple of them, if you don't mind. Now, you see, you can't change people, no matter how much you try. And I've always been, ever since little, always ignore my feelings, my desires, and always helped others. And I made a big decision, and I closed a lot of doors and friendships. But it's really hard, and especially the ones who you think you can help them and change and be there, and yet you can't, especially when you're sick, because I have, Ira knows, I have rheumatoid arthritis and other medical stuff. At the age of 32, it's hard. It's very hard, because you have to take care of yourself first before others. And when you go from taking care of others all the time, now all of a sudden you're finally saying no, and you can't do this, you can't do that, and they have little temper tantrums and this and that. When I finally decided enough, I'm done, I still have a hard time letting those people go. And go ahead, I'm
you
sorry.
bring up a really interesting point that I'm really glad that you called in, because we teach people how to treat us. And whenever you provide a service on a regular basis, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whenever you do that, it comes to be expected. It is their right to receive this service from you. And when we're doing this, we put ourselves in the position of being the strong person. We're the giver. They're the receivers. And then when something happens to the giver that's beyond their control, or maybe they just decide they've had enough of it and they're not going to do it anymore, then people think you are a selfish, and I can't use profanity, but they just think you're a very selfish person. How dare you withhold this service from them when they're expecting it from you, or when they needed it the most, although they've always needed it the most. So it is difficult for you to do that, especially when you're a giving and kind person with a big heart. We should never put ourselves in that position where we're giving and giving and giving and giving and not receiving. If a relationship is not reciprocal, even if it's your children, they have to learn to give back in some way. They have to do their chores. They have to learn to mind. They have responsibilities. We're teaching kids responsibilities too, and intimate relationships. It's not just one person giving to the exclusion of everyone else, because then you wear yourself out, and eventually you become resentful of that, because when you need them, they're not there. But that's because you've trained them that you are strong and you don't need anybody. They don't even realize that you're sometimes a human being, and that you're frail and have weaknesses too. So it's really, we do this sometimes and we don't realize it because we want to help people. But as human beings, we're not strong every day of our lives. We do have things that happen. And I really think it's wise that you are distancing yourself from people that just use you or take advantage of you, because that's not helping your soul.
I learned that. I really did. Especially a full year of last week was a big achievement. And when I've closed those doors, those people out of my life, and actually start healing myself, I look back and I'm like, wow, did I grow? And there's still questions. There's that where, oh, if I would have done this different, or if I would have said this different, they would still be in my life, but probably not the right reasons. And listening to you tonight just really, it kind of like, wow, what, it's like a wake-up call for me. And I just really, it's hard, but you see, you have to do it for yourself before you can take care of others. And I love taking care of others. I love it. I love volunteering. I love giving back to people. And it's hard to break that cycle. And even going back to ex-boyfriends, there's one, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's karmic or whatever, but this time around, I told them, no, I want to move on. And I don't know why those feelings come back, but I look at those situations and those past experiences, and it's like, I don't want that. But it's really hard. And it's just, as a caring, loving person, it's just really hard to close those chapters.
I can definitely agree with that. I know how that is. Yeah.
No, sorry, Ira, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I definitely know how that is. Jessica, I do hate to do this, but we only have a few minutes that are left. So I'll let you go on this part of it here. But Nancy, go ahead and answer for her.
Oh.
You can't settle. You get what you settle for. And you deserve so much more than that. And you were talking about if you would have said things differently or said other words, maybe somebody would still be in your life, but would you want them in your life? There's somebody much, much better for you, just like with Ira. And sometimes it's just a matter of being patient. We all want what we want when we want it, and we want it now. But, I've counseled a lot of women, and I've also done readings for a lot of women who they want it so badly, and they want to take whatever's in front of them, and that's not what's best for them. If they would just wait, sometimes a few months, sometimes a year. I mean, why would you settle for somebody that's not going to make you happy and bring you misery if just being a little bit patient could bring you just the perfect person for your life? In my life, Spirit told me that I have to sever ties with everyone who does not serve me. And that doesn't mean serve in the literal sense, but people that bring me down and don't appreciate me and treat me basically, really badly. And it's been a very, very difficult process for me. I was married for 30 years, and that's really a hard, and I should have actually left that marriage probably 20 years before I did. But I had children and didn't want them to be without a father. I had all these reasons, but the truth of the matter, when I really look at it, is that I was scared. And when I finally made that decision to leave, I decided I didn't want to be with anybody, and I wasn't for 7 years, but now like Ira, I am married to the most wonderful man. I really believe he's my soulmate. He's not perfect, but then neither am I. And he doesn't try to control me. He doesn't, he doesn't cheat on me. He gives me my freedom. And so we always think that a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to let go and make room for something better that's waiting for you to come along. So I know it's hard, but you are making the right decisions. You're listening to your own inner guidance, or you wouldn't have had the strength to make these decisions, to let these people go. And don't doubt yourself. You made the right decisions for you, and your soul is trying to get you to know that. And yeah, you may still have feelings for the other person, but you have to have stronger feelings for yourself and take care of yourself.
Exactly.
I
Well,
I always wanted to.
I was just going to say, we've only got like maybe 2.5 or so minutes that are left here. So just letting you know.
Okay. Well, I think you made the right decision, and just, stick to your guns, because don't go back now. Don't look back. You're not going that way. Move forward.
There you go. Jessica, thank you for calling in. It's appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening.
We will see you later. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Jessica. Thanks for calling in. So also the chatter that was asking the question earlier, they wanted me to tell you thank you, that you helped them out. So definitely a great night for you with all of that. Where can people find your book again? I want to have you give a chance here to get out any information about your books, or your book. Where can people find you? If they want to contact you, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, you can find me at www.choices-nlb, those are my initials, .com. Again, that's www.choices, CHOICES-NLB.com. You can get my book, which is also Choices, and Spirit told me that was the title I had to use for this book, because we all have choices, whether we realize it or not. You can get it through Balboa Press. You can get it through Amazon. You can get it through Barnes & Noble, or you can go to my website again, www.choices-nlb.com, and order it directly from me.
Sounds great, Nancy. Thank you so much for being on with us. Stick around for a minute after the show here. I'll talk to you. But it's been really great having you on the show tonight. It's so deeply appreciated you having you on here tonight.
It's been an honor, Ira. Thank you so much.
You bet. I'll talk to you in just a minute. There you go, guys. Nancy Byrne. Hopefully you guys enjoyed tonight's show. I think everybody did. We had a lot of people in the chat room going on about how great she was, and just really fabulous guest. I'm definitely going to have her back on again in the future if she's willing to come on. If you guys want to go to the archive of this show, it's going to be over at my website, openeyesnetwork.com, as well as youtube.com/c/openeyesnetwork. You guys can also find all of my own books over at my website, originalworlds.com. I do have my new book, Penitence, that's coming out here towards the end of the month. I've got Voices Carry, the second book in the Takik cycle, coming out at the beginning of the year-ish. And I'm working on writing another one right now, the Eternals game. So, pay attention, and we'll get those out as soon as we can. If you want to send me an email, you can send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. And if you want to meet us on social media, we're everywhere. Open Eyes Network on all of the different social media platforms out there. We will be back again live next week with you guys. Hopefully you all have a safe weekend. Don't let Friday the 13th get to you. We do have, don't forget also the L&M Spookathon coming up here in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be a really nice long broadcast as well. Until next time, keep safe out there. Have fun. Thank you so much as always for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.